6 defeats in 7, 4 in the league in a row. Are they in crisis?
Crisis is a big word, but they're in big trouble. There's no doubt about it. Arne Slot, he needs to sort this out and quick.
For Arne Slot to come out after the game and complain about a lack of squad depth, really. This is a manager who broke the British transfer record not once but twice in the summer, and I do wonder how the hierarchy at Liverpool will view those comments. I think he was making excuses.
If things don't go well in the next sort of month or so, Liverpool, the champions, even before Christmas, will be out the title race, and he needs to turn that around. This is not his first test, but this is his biggest test.
These won't be remembered as great champions. I stand by that. They're not a great team of the Premier League era, and I think we're starting to see it now.
Hello, it's Premier League All Access with $1 Million Minto, not so $1 Million Alex Crook, who is got the Friday feeling, haven't you?
Looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah.
Best day of the week.
Yes, you didn't. A bit like Liverpool, you went out in midweek, didn't you?
I absolutely did. Yeah.
Carabao Cup action. Seen Liverpool lose. You've seen Arsenal go through and keep another clean sheet. Chelsea try to go through and then try to throw it away. Newcastle beat Tottenham, and also with Tottenham having such a great away record, maybe a little bit of a surprise that they went out so tamely at St James Park. And Delap's return short-lived.
I mean, look, Liam Delap, what was he thinking of? Interesting, Enzo Maresca went in heavy on him, and I agree with 95% of what he said. You were at the Newcastle game, weren't
I was.
And that's a difficult place to go at the best of times.
Big Nick doing it again?
Absolutely. He's done really well so far. And I worked at the Arsenal game as well, where Max Dowman... Oh my goodness!
You really enjoyed watching him, didn't you?
Well, there was 10 changes, so obviously it's a pretty young side. By the way, arguably that the best bench I've ever seen, because that was just incredible. So Mikel Arteta had the options if things didn't go well, and they were under pressure in that first half, even first 10 minutes. But the best player on the pitch was a 15-year-old kid.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's just incredible, and we've got to be careful how. I don't think we can necessarily. We can't say what we don't think. This is a world-class talent.
Yeah.
And we hope he becomes world-class. It's down to Arsenal and his family, and I know he's got good people around him to make sure he develops into that. But my goodness me, I mean, I felt sorry for De Cooper. I was in the left-back union. I was thinking, you've got this 15-year-old kid up against you, and you don't want to be him to be going past you. Otherwise, it's going to be showing for weeks and months and years about how good this kid is.
And was it a little bit of magic that was required in that Arsenal team? Because I've been watching them the last couple of weeks and I've been sort of impressed with the mechanical obduracy of them. They're very, very efficient, but they aren't the most exciting team in the world, are they?
No, but obviously Dowman, as Scott has alluded to, got the fans excited. They were a little bit fortunate, really. Brighton missed some huge chances, particularly in the first sort of 10, 15 minutes. If one of those had gone in, particularly the Ruter chance that I think he should have scored it could have been a different outcome. But credit to Mikel Arteta for having the foresight to have a strong bench in case they were needed, unlike our good friend Arne Slot at Liverpool.
Yes, we'll get onto them in just a second. Arsenal conceded more shots on target during the course of that 90 minutes against Brighton than they had in the previous 5 games. That's it for the Midweek Cup action. Let's look ahead to the Premier League weekend starting at Anfield. Liverpool against Aston Villa is live on talkSPORT. 6 defeats in 7, 4 in the league in a row. Are they in crisis?
Crisis is a big word, but they're in big trouble right now, and they are in danger of being out the title race pretty soon. I mean, you got to give them credit for having courage and making, after 5 defeats in 6, and then putting that team out. And as Crookie says, on the bench, no real options to come off and change it if things aren't going well. So you look at the next few games, he quite simply has to win. Villa, then there's Real Madrid, of course, and then there's City
Manchester
away.
City, yeah.
So it really piles the pressure on. But if things don't go well in the next sort of month or so, Liverpool, the champions, even before Christmas, will be out the title race, and he needs to turn that around big time. And
does it show how difficult it is to not only win the Premier League title, but to retain it? The fact that we had the similar situation with Manchester City last year after, let's be honest, 4 in a row and an amazing treble just before that. Difficult for them to go again last year. Liverpool found it very difficult to go again this year. It takes every sinew of your body, every ounce of focus and energy that you've got to get over the line and win the Premier League. But doing it twice in a row is hard work.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't particularly difficult for Liverpool last year because Man City took a year off and obviously Arsenal faltered, hence their big summer spending. I told you at the time, these won't be remembered as great champions. I stand by that. They're not a great team of the Premier League era, and I think we're starting to see it now. And for Arne Slot to come out after the game and complain about a lack of squad depth, really, he pointed to Man City making so many changes and said it was the first 11. He pointed to Esteval being able to come off the bench for Chelsea. This is a manager who broke the British transfer record not once but twice in the summer, and I do wonder how the hierarchy at Liverpool will view those comments. I think he was making excuses.
How the fans feel?
Interesting. I listen obviously to the phone-in shows, and you always get this sort of the angry fan, don't you, at any club? And it's interesting how some do call up and are not now having Slot. I mean,
because social media was going into meltdown on Wednesday.
Yeah. I mean, come on, let's get real. I mean, people say he won the title with Klopp's team. Well, Klopp couldn't win the title with Klopp's team last season or the season before, and he did that this time around. So this is not his first test, but this is his biggest test. I mean, it was very seamless. You know, to put Gravenberch in as a holding midfielder, I think he's been missed. I do think there's a lot of reasons for it, and I agree those back-to-back Premier League titles are very, very difficult, but I don't think that's necessarily the reason here. I think you've had players who have gone, and in Diogo Jota's case, very tragically so. I think you've got players coming in who aren't doing particularly well. I think you've even got the current players who a lot of them aren't doing particularly well. So there's an individual, but also a collective basis as to why it's not quite working. But there's no doubt about it, Arne Slot, he needs to sort this out and quick, because they are doing almost what City did last season. And as I say, we all thought Liverpool, well, I predicted Arsenal, but anybody who finishes above Liverpool would win the title. It's becoming very fast where they're just going to try and get into the top four if it carries on like this.
You're a left back of world renown. You played in the Champions League for Benfica.
Is that because of my record?
We don't have to talk about it. You have a Champions League. Well, you had a Champions League record. Not many people can say that.
That's true.
Milos Kerkez has struggled.
It was an own goal, by the way.
It was an own goal, the fastest ever in the Champions League at one point. Milos Kerkez has struggled to settle at left back for Liverpool. How much has that had a knock-on effect to the other positions in the team? Because Van Dijk and Konate do not look secure. This is a team that have conceded in 12 of the last 14 games.
Yeah. I mean, even from the Community Shield onwards, they were almost needing 3 goals to win a game. You can't just blame it on Kerkez, but I do remember you guys saying, it might have been Crookie or you, Sam, when Kerkez was playing so well for Bournemouth, I said it's just, you can put the same player in a different team and can he handle the pressure? And I'm not saying he can't handle it. What I am saying is he's struggling to adjust for playing the size of a club like Liverpool. It's not just him. Trent's gone. Gravenberch has been injured. As I say, Jota's not around anymore, and Luis Diaz has gone. New players have come in. Isak, what he did in terms of hardly not playing pre-season at all, so he's still playing catch-up from a fitness point of view, and he's injured again. There's only Ekitike that's come in, I think, and done well with the new signings. Gakpo has done pretty well. Apart from that, no one's playing particularly well on an individual basis, and that's something that Arne Slot needs to figure out, and fast, because even when the players have been fit, it looks like they're a million miles away from dealing with that transition that they were able to do with last season. I disagree with Crookie in the sense of it was an easy title to win. It's never an easy title to win. The sides perhaps weren't as great as they could be, but Liverpool were superb. Now Arsenal are coming on even stronger now. Now, again, I go back to the fact of, let's not say that Slot's under pressure for his job, but he's got a massive job to turn things around at the moment, because this is a Titanic at the moment.
Unai Emery was under a little bit of pressure earlier in the season. They didn't score in the first 4 matches of the season. There was a bit of discontent rumbling around Villa Park. That's changed now. The mood there has turned, because they've started to put a string of results together. What sort of test will they provide at Anfield?
A big one, I think. As you say, they're on a really good run of form, and I think actually Arne Slot could learn from Unai Emery, because what he's done to try to turn their sort of slow start of the season around, he's gone back to basics. He's gone back to the players largely that did so well last season. Obviously, there's been a lot of conjecture about Harvey Elliott and why he's not playing. Same for Jadon Sancho. But as I say, people like Matty Cash have really turned it on in recent weeks, and I think this is a big week for Liverpool. You mentioned Real Madrid and Manchester City, and Villa. Well, it looks the most winnable of those 3 games. Certainly won't be a shoo-in.
Yep, that's live on talkSPORT. 8 o'clock kickoff on Saturday night. It's a late one because of the Champions League action in midweek. Elsewhere in the title race, Arsenal are away at Burnley. Could the Clarets be the perfect antidote for Arsenal's set pieces?
I think Arsenal are just a juggernaut that just find a way. They're so good defensively. Again, Arteta rested the players that he needed to, so it's not as if they, have any kind of fitness problems. I mean, we saw Burnley away, even when Liverpool, they weren't playing, they probably not had a complete 90-minute performance at all, even when they were winning this season. But Burnley made it difficult for Liverpool. And they will make it difficult for Arsenal, but you just feel Arsenal have this mentality at the moment where even if it's 0-0 at half-time, they'll find a way, whether it's the set pieces, whether it's a little bit of brilliance from someone. So, listen, I think it will be difficult. I think Burnley have done very well, and Scott Parker has really given them a chance of staying up this season. But no, Arsenal are going to continue and get away with all 3 points. And this is the danger for both City and Liverpool. Where Arsenal are at the moment, and I know they've got Sunderland away after that, which obviously would be very, very difficult. But if they win the next 2 games and City and Liverpool continue to drop points, we could be going into the international break.
Someone's going to drop points because City and Liverpool play each other next
Absolutely.
Sunday. So, they're in a situation where, because they had a tough start to the season, actually, Arsenal, have dropped points maybe earlier in the campaign, but yet stayed within touching distance. They've gone into a good run of fixtures and then powered away. They could amass quite a big lead. Look, I think they're a brilliant team. Honestly, and I've said to you, I like Mikel Arteta for a very long time. And there is a part of me that, when he celebrated that win over Crystal Palace last week, I was kind of pleased for him. I shouldn't be, but I'm like, he really enjoyed it. He got hold of his coaching staff. They all got together, and I just thought, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. Back-to-back wins for Parker's side. Is it a free hit, this, taking on Arsenal at home?
Yeah, I think so. I've been impressed with Burnley. We knew they'd have defensive stability. They had that last season in the Championship. I did wonder where the goals are coming from. I think Jadon Anthony has been one of the stars of the season so far. Obviously, someone I watched in close quarters at Bournemouth. I didn't necessarily see that he would have this in him in the Premier League, but he's turned out to be a very astute signing. As Scott's mentioned, they made it difficult for Liverpool earlier in the season. I think Arsenal will win. I think they'll probably keep a clean sheet, but I don't think they're going to run up a cricket score.
Let's look at the rest of Saturday's action now, starting with a massive London derby, Spurs and Chelsea. Chelsea looking to extend their unbeaten run over Spurs to 5 games. In fact, they've won the last 4 against them. But then again, that is nothing new. Look through the history books. They don't lose to Tottenham very often.
Come on, Chelsea.
Who would you rather be a fan of out of these 2 teams right now?
No, I think it's a good question, but I think you've got to say Chelsea. Yeah, look, £1.5 billion spent or whatever it is, and yet they still, I don't believe, have a squad that can really challenge for the title itself. And yet I do feel they're getting better and stronger with each year. Maresca's still learning on the job. It amazes me how... And where are you with Maresca right now? Because a lot of people I respect are just not having him in recent weeks.
Do you know what I think
You're a
he
big
is?
fan, aren't you?
Do you know what I think
the job
it is?
that he's done is, in his first season, 2 trophies and a 4th place. There's lots of things to pick with him in terms of the substitutions he made with at Old Trafford and also against Brighton.
I think it's like the squad, right? So it's a very inexperienced squad that is inconsistent and that sometimes are very naive. They make silly mistakes and cost themselves points and games. We saw that in Europe in the Champions League in the first game against Bayern Munich away from home. They were naive in the second half of that match and the game got away from them. That's what happens in the Champions League if you're not experienced enough to be able to deal with it. I think he has made some odd decisions in terms of selections. I think that every time you think that he's starting to get them into a rhythm, something will come up and it will, again, take a couple of steps backwards.
Is that down to him or the players?
I think it's a bit of both, but I don't think sometimes he helps himself. And I also, and I've got a big problem with this, and this is, Crook will tell you, I keep trotting out the same line, because he keeps trotting out the same line, which is every time they play against someone who changes their system in order to thwart Chelsea, he complains about it. and talks about it as if it's a massive surprise, as if he was expecting Sunderland to turn up and play into Chelsea's hands. Other teams aren't going to do that. What other teams are going to do is, because you're the world champions and the Conference League champions and you spent 1.5 billion quid, funnily enough, they're going to find every trick in the book to try and stop you from performing. And if that means they change shape or defend deeper or put a different player in a different position, then you've got to be ready for that. You should be prepared. But he always talks in the aftermath of games as if that is a massive shock and it took them ages to be able to work it out. Well, they should have seen it coming, really.
I think it's difficult to see it coming. You don't know how a team's going to plan, but I do agree. Once you do see it,
you should have in your
change
mind
it in game within the
scenarios
first
of
10
what
minutes.
could happen.
I also don't know why you'd admit publicly that you've been schooled by
I agree.
Regis Lebris. I'm not sure what he had to achieve by making that public knowledge.
And there's all sorts of rumours about, him going off at the end of the season, or, them shaking hands like they did with Maurizio Sarri at the end of that season. You'll remember it, where it just didn't fit, so it moved him on or whatever. The thing about Chelsea, and we know, they're never going to have a long-term manager. It just doesn't work like that. It will only ever be 2 or 3 years, and then somebody else will come in. But that's what happens.
We could go on, but we should mention Spurs here,
yes.
I suppose. As well.
Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur, because I think they're in a different zone, aren't they? They're in Thomas Frank is in the first era of his management tenure at Tottenham, and that is, let's make it really difficult for teams to beat us first, and then we'll try and inject a bit of adventure. I mean, Tottenham fans are a bit sort of like, the results are good and we're still scoring goals. Joint top goal scorers in the Premier League, but it doesn't feel Tottenham, does it?
No, Mickey van der Ven's got a fair few of those, hasn't he? And
he's a top scorer. 2
from set pieces at Everton last week. 3-0 flattered Spurs. Obviously, I was at the game. Everton were better than the scoreline suggested, but Spurs were clinical when it mattered. Still didn't create a huge amount of chances from open play.
Vic's made a load of saves, hasn't he?
Yeah.
In the game.
He did against Monaco as well. He was man of the match by a million miles.
I mean, he does have problems from set pieces and high balls, but he does make a lot of saves.
Yeah, and he might have to this weekend because I think Chelsea are the more adventurous team. They probably are the more aesthetically pleasing on the eye. But as you say, I don't think Tottenham fans can really complain about the league position when you've got a manager coming in who's the complete opposite, really, of his predecessor. So obviously he's trying to change the style, but he's getting results along the way. They weren't great in midweek without Newcastle. No. They were disappointing.
Xavi Simons has struggled, hasn't he?
Yeah. Did he have his best game? Again, you were there.
Not at Newcastle, no.
I've heard he showed moments that... No,
his best game, I think, was in the game at Leeds. I thought he played better in that match than he did at Newcastle. He had a few moments in the game, but it was not consistent enough. He gave the ball away far too many times. He wasn't secure enough in possession.
It's very difficult for almost any Premier League club to complain about injuries, but they're almost double figures, if not over double figures into the injuries that they've got. It does make me laugh of... Spurs fans weren't happy with Ange and how bad they were defensively. Well, Thomas Frank came in and said, right, that's the first thing I want to try and sort out. They are third in the league, and yet they're still scoring goals, and yet the football's not kind of good enough for some of the fans. I mean, this is going to take time, and Thomas Frank, I believe, is the right manager for Spurs. I think he's very adaptable. I think he's really sort of football intelligent. Certainly knows how to play the media as well. Well, not play the media, but just... get them on side and explain things. This is very much a project, and he needs time. And obviously, with Daniel Levy not around, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens, not just in the January window, but next summer. And it needs to be given a little bit of time, at least a year, before we start.
Absolutely. Look, I think he's a great guy. I think he's a very good manager. To have secured that defence with basically pretty much the same personnel. He's lost Romero for a part of the season as well, and he's made Kevin Danso into Van der Ven's partner, and he's done very well with that. He used Paulinho as a centre-half in midweek. He hasn't had a striker to talk of either, because Tell is inconsistent. He's a very young player. Kolo Muani's been injured. Solanke has been injured, and Richarlison is in and out. They do need a striker, I think, in the summer. Someone to be a little bit different to Solanke as well, because Solanke's more of a sort of hold-up man and a presser or whatever, but I think they need someone to run in behind.
Yeah, I keep coming back to Ivan Toney. I mean, obviously it's not easy to get players out of Saudi Arabia for tax reasons, but obviously he's someone who played well under Thomas Frank at Brentford. They've got a good relationship. I think he'd be perfect for this Tottenham team, and I feel like he's still probably got unfinished business in the Premier League.
Has Harry Kane got a...
he's not coming back.
I'm just...
He's got a clause.
He's not coming
He's
back.
got a release clause, but I don't think he leaves Bayern Munich.
He's never coming back.
And
Have you seen how well he's getting on?
Yeah. And if he does leave Bayern, he's not going back to Tottenham.
He is playing the best football of his life.
Yeah.
He is dropping in, picking the ball up like a quarterback, spraying passes all over the place, finishing moves, scoring goals. He's having the time of his life. He's not going
I go back
anywhere.
to that Chelsea game where he was brilliant as a 9, brilliant as a 10, brilliant as a 6.
He's unbelievable. He is in, and do you know what? I don't know what it is. The fitness regime, the training regime, the diet.
Well, let's hope he's fit at the end of the season, then, shall we?
Because he's in absolutely sensational form. Talking of big number 9s that could play for England, Liam Delap came off the bench after 7 weeks with an injury, got 1 yellow card, and then picked up another one, and the second one actually could have been a straight red, to be honest. So he was pretty lucky not to have been sent off and then given a 3-match ban. It's just the 1-match ban, but he misses this huge match against Tottenham Hotspur. It's a problem for Chelsea because that's 6 red cards in 9 games if you include the managers. And
it was a brainless one, much like the João Pedro one in the Champions League, totally unnecessary. And obviously he missed a game in that competition. Delap probably would have started at the weekend, and his physicality maybe would have been an issue for Spurs. To get himself sent off in that manner is ridiculous, really. And again, it comes back to what you're saying about naivety. A lot of the cards that Chelsea have picked up have been utterly avoidable.
Well, 4 of the 6 have been second yellows, and that is an indiscipline problem, isn't it? You know, and actually, when you go back to the Maresca discussion again, one of the issues I have with it is that he didn't stamp on that when it first became a problem. It was a little bit like at the end of last season, actually, when I spoke to him in the tunnel and I said to him, you know, you've given away more penalties than anybody else in the Premier League this season. How are you going to stop that? And he said, have we? And at that point, you're thinking, you should probably know that.
Yeah, and he may well know that.
He may well know.
Exactly. For you to bring it up.
Maybe,
obviously,
maybe.
Don't argue with Sam Matterface. That's what I would say. You know?
That's not where I was going. Hold on a second.
That's what I'll just say.
Hold on a second. Just remember, today is about picking on him, okay? Not me.
He's doing well. He's only sweated about half a stone off at the moment.
He's warm in the studio, by the way.
He's the one who didn't turn up. He's the one wearing yesterday's clothes.
He's done well just to turn up, however late he was.
To be fair, you have warmed up a little bit, haven't you?
But you can't not warm up in this studio. It's about 38 degrees.
It's actually not, by the way. The aircon's on. But anyway, sorry, what was the question?
I can't remember. Anyway, the only thing I worry about with Liam Delap and the possibility of him actually trying to deputise for Harry Kane going further down the line is that sort of discipline issue, because actually he's a bit like that. He's done it before. You know, when he was at Ipswich, he was a bit sort of robust, wasn't he? Yeah,
absolutely. And look, the question was, Maresca hasn't sorted out the red cards. He needs to find a way. I mean, back in the day, you know, just the threat of a 2-week fine would be enough for us to kind of sort that out. I don't know if it is anymore, but he needs to find a way to scare the players into saying you can't be doing this. But there's only so much a manager can do, Sam. You know, you look at Malagusto with the sending off he did there. You look at Nicholas Jackson, what he did in the Club World Cup. Once a player gets past that white line, it's down to the player. And for Liam Delap, and he's told him, Maresca, he was asked in a press conference afterwards, I told him 4 or 5 times between the 2 yellow cards, be very careful. And you're absolutely right. I think that was a straight red, not a second yellow, because his elbow did kind of go up and go towards the head.
2 goes at him.
Honestly, they've got to find a way. He's got to find a way. I don't necessarily blame him, but he's got to find a way. I mean, even his own red card was a joke. I mean, how can you not celebrate a last-minute winner against the champions? But it is what it is. You know, I don't have a problem with that one. But he's got to find a way, because that's a big loss, Liam Delap. Whether he would have started or not, he's not available now for the biggest game of the season for Chelsea.
Yep, Tottenham away on Saturday at 5:30. Nottingham Forest take on Manchester United. Sean Dyche been forced to clarify his comments on Ruben Amorim's tactics this week. Had previously suggested the Portuguese would have better luck if he played a 4-4-2 instead of his 3-5-2. He says Amorim has actually changed his system in recent games. Is that fair, and has he gone more direct?
Certainly gone more direct, and I think we have seen a subtle tweak, and it's paid off, hasn't it? United looking for 4 wins on the spin. There's a degree of confidence, I think, going into this game, which maybe wouldn't have been there 3 or 4 weeks ago. Forest have caused United problems in recent seasons. Won at Old Trafford, I think, last year. I fancy United to win.
A degree of confidence.
A degree of confidence.
Yeah, I think the text message I got last Sunday was, "I'm just getting the cigar out."
That was Saturday night, actually.
Oh, was it?
And it was 3-0 at that stage. The cigar quickly went back in when Brighton scored twice. But listen, this is a massive opportunity for United to keep that momentum going. He's had another week on the training ground. Intrigued to see if he changes much. Obviously, Lenny Yoro came in for Harry Maguire, Šeško for Mason Mount. I think Šeško will start this game. And I think it'll be a decent battle between him and those Forest central defenders.
I now feel I've got to clarify my comments about Enzo Maresca's penalties, because if Sean Dyche is apologising to Ruben Amorim, I'm going to have to apologise to Enzo Maresca. I've got to get better with my post-match interview technique. Forest 18th currently. Producer Jeremy thinks they are in massive trouble.
No.
He says that they don't look as if they're going to be able to juggle Europa League and Premier League. Are they still going to be in the relegation mix-up by the time we get to the turn of the year?
Turn of the year, maybe. But I don't think there's going to be an issue going towards the end of the season of Nottingham Forest going down. Not under Sean Dyche. He'll find a way to grind out the points. The question is, can they combine the Premier League and the Europa League? Because we know the owner wants to win European trophies. And with the greatest of respect, let's not forget that just over a year ago, the beginning of last season, many people were predicting Forest to go down. So last season was an outlier in terms of where they were. Now the squad itself is really good, but it might be a good few years again before they get into a European place.
That was always going to be the case, whoever was in charge. But you look at their squad, it's a lot better than West Ham. It's a lot better than Wolves. I guess the concern is those two are going to go down for me. The third place is up for grabs, isn't it?
He's got a bit of the Marinakis about him, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
Sitting there with his arm out like that, relaxed, you know.
I'm in good company. but the squad is better than those two teams.
Yeah, of course it is.
But there has to be 3 teams to go down. At the moment, none of the newly promoted sides look like they're going to.
And also, they do have twin commitments, and they are going to push on in Europe. It is going to be testing for the squad. They've got too many players, I think, and January is going to be interesting because I think there'll be more outs than ins. Manchester United, obviously, Jim Ratcliffe gave Ruben Amorim a public backing. Does that actually end up being quite a positive thing after you sort of poo-pooed it at the time?
Listen, what I said at the time was he gave Erik ten Hag a public vote of confidence and then fired him. He told us Dan Ashworth was the best in class and then fired him. But I think what it has done with Ruben Amorim is emboldened him in the dressing room. So if there were any dissenting voices, any players who weren't necessarily coming along for the ride, I think they know he's there to stay. Manchester United don't want to fire him. We've said that on talkSPORT. Yes, there were contingency plans being drawn up in case the results didn't improve and they had to make a change. But you look at the way they've kicked on since then, some brilliant wins against teams who historically they've struggled against. First win at Anfield in 9 years. Brighton beaten United home and away for the last few seasons. And as I say, they've got history with Forest as well, and then it's Tottenham next up. So 2 big games. Maybe that guy will get a haircut.
Yeah, I doubt it. Benjamin Šeško, what have we made of the way he's settled into the Premier League?
I think like a lot of sort of strikers, big names, he's done okay without being brilliant. I've said this to you before on the pod. I worry a little bit about his mentality after what happened at Grimsby. He should have stepped up and taken a penalty, even if he wasn't in that first 5. And he did take the penalty, and it was a good penalty. But there's no way that, again, Shearer, Owen, Fowler would have sort of said, "Yeah, I'll wait till number 10."
We don't know that was his call, though, do we?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
matter. I'm telling you now, Alan
we wouldn't
Shearer,
know because the manager was at the other end of the pitch hiding.
Well, absolutely, looking at his board.
Has he been better than Victor Gyökeres, though?
I wouldn't say
Because
better.
they were the two options for Arsenal,
I wouldn't say better. I think both have shown glimpses without being particularly brilliant.
I was going to ask you about this because I was with Andy Cole and Les Ferdinand in midweek.
Wow.
Right? Now,
they know a thing or two about number 9.
Let's be honest.
He was a left back.
They were wonderful.
Both.
They were wonderful strikers, right?
Yeah.
And they know so much about how you should move, where you should be. And one of the things that Andy was talking about was he questions some of the appetite of the strikers to be in an area where you're going to score goals. You know, Why are you not in that sort of 6-yard box in the centre of the goal, waiting for something to happen almost, sniffing out that chance? That was his big thing. And if you look around the league and you look can you imagine how much money those two would have been worth? Because the quality of those two players, in comparison to even some of the ones that have been lavished with big contracts and spent a lot of money on, is night and day. It's very different being a number 9 now, isn't it, in the Premier League? I think you're expected to do a little bit more, but also they don't get the goals. No one gets the goal. I mean, apart from Haaland, they don't get the goals like those boys used to.
Didier Drogba ruined it for all the strikers, where he could do everything on his own. He could bring the ball down, he could drop off, he could go in behind, and then you could have that extra man in midfield. I played with Coley in the under-21s, and just incredible talent, incredible poacher. Once he got the other side of you, you ain't catching him, simple as that, and the ball's in the back of the net. I do think football's changed a bit, or certainly from the number 9 point of view. So they're being asked to do different things. I think Gyökeres is more of a natural striker than Šeško, but he also does the all-round things. I think Gyökeres wants to get in behind, and he does try to get in behind, and he's still finding his fitness at the moment. You could argue for both of them. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's still a wait and see. I think the bottom line is for Gyökeres is, are Arsenal winning games?
And is he scoring goals? He's scoring goals.
Yeah, but it's Arsenal winning games first.
Yeah.
And then Arteta's already come out and said he wants a striker who, if he goes 6 or 7 games without a goal, that he doesn't worry about it. So he needs to be strong in that. We know that playing for Manchester United, the weight of the shirt, we've seen it. We know that Jason Wilcox has come out and said we don't just want talent, we need character and people who can deal with that. For me, and Burmo and Cunha have a Premier League proven and have shown they can play at Old Trafford. Šeško I'm still waiting for at the moment. The jury's still out. We'll have to wait and see.
I thought he was better against Brighton. I thought he linked the play really well. And actually, I don't think he got enough credit, actually, for the roles that he played in that victory.
I think he scores this weekend.
Are you going to back him? Well, you back everyone. Nottingham Forest against Manchester United. Let's get stuck into Sunday's action now. West Ham welcome Newcastle to the London Stadium. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. West Ham winless at home since a 2-0 win against Leicester on February the 27th. The question on our script today is,
ask me.
There a more toxic home ground in world football?
It's a horrible
question. Actually, the answer to that is yes, I bet there is, because it isn't toxic.
It's apathetic.
It's apathetic. It's not toxic at all. There's a horrible acceptance that the football is not good enough, and the stadium is not good enough, and the club is not good enough.
And this is another game where Newcastle away from home will fancy it. You probably fancy West Ham to grind out a result more if this game was at St James's Park for the reasons you've just mentioned. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of empty seats. The team selection is going to be interesting because the last 2 lineups that Nuno Espirito Santo has named have baffled all of us. So I thought the way you delivered the team news last Friday night was on point, because you were as stunned as all the West Ham fans. They've got a couple of injuries as well. Mavropanos is out for 6 weeks. They've lost Ollie Scholes, who's obviously just come into the team. He's going to miss a few months as well. Is he going to play a striker at home? Is he going to play Callum Wilson against his old club?
Well, he admitted to me that he'd made a mistake on Friday night. He said that he said, look, if you make a mistake and you realise that you haven't got it right, you should change it quickly. And he did. He changed it after 20 minutes. They were 2-0 down by that point. But I didn't really get what he was trying to do.
No, I didn't either. And even people sort of say since Wilson came on, West Ham were a lot better. Well, actually, immediately afterwards, they still conceded 3 or 4 chances, certainly 2 or 3 really good chances, and could have gone 3 or 4-0 down. It wasn't until the second half where actually the game was kind of won. And I know what it's like when you're 2-0 up at half time. It's more about game management. You're not going to be at it in the way that you were in the first half. So naturally, they won't look as vulnerable as they did in the first half. Yeah, I do worry for West Ham. I do. I mean, you look at Nuno and you would think he'd be the perfect man to get them away from the relegation zone. And yet, there are question marks already against what he's done.
I'm told it's a long-term thing with him, though, and that I think they've decided that he's going to be the one that is given the keys to the castle and get on with it, and build slowly. And I think that's why he felt emboldened to be able to change the team he did on Monday night and then again on Friday. I think that was a I don't know what it was about, but I'm guessing it's got to be something to do with management of dressing room.
Sam, I like Nuno, I really do, and I think he's a good appointment for where West Ham are right now. But I was part of the squad: Di Canio, Defoe, Joey Cole, Mickey Carrick, David James, Trev Sinclair. I could go on. That we went down. It's still a Premier League record of 42 points.
The stats for that season are unbelievable.
You're
All the goals
never
came
too
down
good.
the left-hand side.
That's, unfortunately, I was deemed not good enough to even get into that team, but not often. But my point is, you win the next game, and then you change that confidence, because the longer it goes on where you're losing games, you always think there's the next game and the next game. Before you know it, you're Christmas, and then you're January, and then you're February, and you're still down there, and you're running in treacle, and it's a very difficult thing to do. He needs to stop the rot and stop the rot now, and he needs to find a way to do that. He has to play Callum Wilson in my book, even if he can't play the whole 90 minutes. Not just because they need a striker, but I think most football players will ask you when they play against their former club, whether it was good or bad experience, they try just that little bit harder.
Yeah, he said to me on Friday night, we have got a lot of problems in our club right now. And then he went, unfortunately. But he also said, we've been brought in to sort those out. So I think he's sort of going to go through a process. One of the problems is Lucas Paquetá. What's happening? Reports this week saying that he's going to leave in January. That might not be the worst thing if they can get some money for him.
Yeah, that's been played down by my sources at West Ham. I'm told neither he or his camp have expressed to the hierarchy that he wants out. I think he feels maybe that he owes West Ham something for standing by and drawing his gambling issues or his gambling charges. I think he'll go in the summer. I think that's pretty inevitable, but I don't think they're going to cash in now, because you look at potential match winners, there aren't many. Jared Bowen is one, Paquetá is another, but I've got to say his form's been poor, isn't it? His numbers are not great.
Yeah, but that's just the team overall, I think. I mean, he did score on Friday night, but was deemed to be offside, a very tiny infraction, so he was definitely involved on Friday. Newcastle going for their first away win in the Premier League of the season. I think performances have been better than results suggested in the early part of the season. They've started to add goals now. Voltemada has settled in, and they learned how to get the best out of him. They look like a proper team.
Yeah, he's a clever player, isn't he?
Brilliant.
He's not just your typical number 9, but he can drop off, and the way he kind of
looks $1 million as well, doesn't he? He just looks like a cult figure.
Have we decided from what decade, what era yet?
I think it's 70s.
I think 70s.
I think 70s.
Yeah.
Bit before my time.
Not the way you're looking at the moment.
Crikey. You look 70.
Almost like from the Starsky and Hutch era, but you say
Yeah,
Greece.
yeah. Is that 70s? It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
late
it is.
70s.
It is. I think Newcastle, even from the start of the season, their performances were much, much better than the results. You know, you look at that Liverpool game, and how did they not even get a point, let alone a win? And
Arsenal at home played pretty well.
You could name 3 or 4 where they certainly didn't get what they deserve. And he's talked about how, you know, they beat my Benfica side 3-0, but actually first half they did concede chances, but the power them showed in the second half. And then Eddie Howe's saying we need to show that now in the Premier League. Well, I do feel that the Isak thing is now parked, and they can move on, and they are moving on, and Voltemada is showing why. So absolutely, and I'm very worried for West Ham in the long term of this particular season, but for this particular game as well, because Newcastle are in great form right now.
But if you go for that Newcastle squad, you've got 2 very good goalkeepers in Pope and Ramsdale. Ramsdale showed his abilities on Wednesday night, a couple of really good saves.
Your mate Ramesh, he did put in some good saves. He played goal for them recently.
Save at 1-0, didn't he?
He did. Really good save down to his left, round the post. Excellent. And they've got 2 good right backs when they're both fit, obviously Trippier and Livramento. They've got a battalion of centre halves now that they can rely on. They've got a very good left back in Lewis Hall, and Dan Burn has been playing there as well, and Livramento can play both sides. The midfield area, which was their key sort of engine room last year that drove them, with Tonali sitting, and then Joel Linton, the power and the running and the aggression, and Bruno Guimaraes with that little bit of silk. They've added to that with Willock's playing well. Jacob Ramsey's come into the team and done very well, and Lewis Miley's developed into a very good 6. He can pop the ball around as well. I think they always thought that he was going to be that player, but there are 2 players for every position. You've got the wide boys, Elanga, Barnes, Murphy, Gordon. There's 4 of those, and when he's fit, you've got Visser and Voltemada. So you're in a situation where you've got 2 players for every single position on the pitch, and if you're Eddie Howe, I think you're thinking to yourself, we've got a chance here.
Yeah,
We've
not
got a
much was made
chance.
of it at the time because obviously the Isak situation became a saga. But actually, they had a good window on the quiet. Obviously, got the Voltemada deal tied up very quickly. Elanga was in the building quite early in pre-season as well. Eddie likes to get players there as soon as possible to get them adjusted to the way that he does things. The squad is a lot deeper, and they need it because obviously they're competing on multiple fronts. You say when Wiss is going to be fit. When he is fit, he's going to be off the African Cup of Nations. I'm not sure we're going to see much of him this year.
I'm not sure that he'll make the African Cup of Nations. That starts in mid-December. That's a month and a half away. Is he going to be fit by then?
It's touch and go, but we know that African players, this competition means a lot to them.
Of course
so I
it
think
does,
if he can get fit, he'll want to go. Newcastle would probably prefer that he didn't, or that his nation make an early exit. But they are light at the top end of the pitch because of his absence.
They'll have him back by January, I think. Although Asula, I think, has played quite well. Actually, he came on and changed the game against Fulham
Nearly left on deadline
Saturday. He did, but Eddie actually talked about him being the complete package. Once he sort of grows into his body and he gets a little bit more work into him, he fancies him. He thinks he's going to be a very good player. I think that, look, get through to the knockout stage of the Champions League. Get Champions League football again. Be a cracking season for them. They may even have another run at the Carabao
They've got a nice
Cup.
draw in there, home draw in the quarterfinals, so every chance.
Yeah, I fancy them and Chelsea. Look, I was at Arsenal, as I say. I think Arteta, he's obviously got bigger fish to fry. I think he'll make changes again with Palace. Palace has got a horrendous December coming up. But
Do you know when that game's going to be, by the way?
I do.
Could be a
Well,
weekend game, couldn't it?
it could be Christmas Eve.
Well, it won't be Christmas Eve.
It looks like it's going to be December the 16th, doesn't it?
23rd, I think it'll be.
Is it 23rd now?
Yeah, well, there's all the rumours were doing rounds
It's a
yesterday.
Monday, is it? Is it Monday?
No, it's a Tuesday. And there was all sorts of text messages going around yesterday. Don't say anything, but it could be this date. Don't say anything, it could be there was about 7 different dates in the end. But 23rd, I think, possibly, which would be quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, let's wait and see. But I think if Palace are bang up, they're okay fitness-wise, they'll play a strong side. Mikel Arteta won't in the League Cup, and he's thinking about the Premier League and Champions League. I think for Newcastle and Chelsea, these are great opportunities.
We haven't touched on City playing Bournemouth this weekend. That's a tough fixture, isn't it?
Yeah.
City, good run of form, truly dented by Aston Villa last time out. Pep's side, are they the closest challengers to Liverpool, to Arsenal, given the meltdown at Liverpool, or are the closest challengers the second team in the league who they're playing this weekend?
Yeah, listen, it's brilliant for Bournemouth. We had Jeff Mostyn on the show on Tuesday, former chairman. It wasn't that long ago that they were on the verge of extinction. To be second in the Premier League now is a wonderful achievement, and credit to Andoni Iraola and the recruitment team in particular. Obviously, they lost a lot of key players in the summer, but it hasn't really dented them. They seem to keep unearthing these gems. Junior Krupi in brilliant form. Semenyo to a great start of the season, and will probably get a big move next summer. But it is City, isn't it? As long as Haaland stays fit. The issue I have with them is that if he doesn't score, nobody else does. And the statistics back that up because Esteve, Burnley is still their second highest goal scorer in the Premier League with 2 own goals. So they need goals from elsewhere. Obviously, they got a couple in midweek without Haaland, and maybe that'll give the rest of the squad some confidence.
Not United, the biggest rivals to Arsenal.
We're just ticking along nicely. We don't need to talk about United in terms of title races.
Well, United's ticking along nicely, and you're not ticking along nicely. You're sweating from every single orifice. In fact, I'm a little bit concerned that sweat might actually taste of alcohol if we come anywhere near you. Anyway, thanks
Good to see you. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for getting through it. Thanks for coming in early to do it. Scotty, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. That was Premier League All Access with me, Sam Matterface, Scotty Minto, and the Crookmeister. We'll be back early next week to review all the Premier League action and look ahead to another big week in the Champions League. Make sure you flick through the Premier League All Access feed. Men in Black is in there as well, and tell all your friends about it.